Okay, we're live.
Okay, good evening, Somers, and welcome to the Somers Town Board work session of Thursday, November 5th. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and be seated. Okay, so our first, there are no public hearings tonight. So the first item of business is public comment. I'll make a motion to open public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. And as been our practice, since we are in the era of Zooming and people sometimes have a hard time getting through, we'll keep public comment open. And I'll just ask the town clerk to remind me to close it before we close the meeting. And Paul or Patty, do we have anybody for public comment?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay, I just let a few people in the waiting room. So can you just ask that question one more time?
Okay, do we have anybody on for public comment? So if you're on, you can ask your question or make your comment.
Okay, nothing yet. So I guess we can always come back to that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So once again, we'll keep public comment open. So the first agenda item I have this evening is, an unfortunate one, but I think it's necessary to update the community on where we are in this pandemic, COVID pandemic. So as of the last report from New York State, there have been 496,655 positive cases of COVID since the pandemic began. New York State has tested 82,117 individuals. The very, very sad news in New York State fatalities, we've had 25,472 fatalities, 83 since my last summary, or from last week, actually. In Westchester County, there are 39,549 positive cases since the pandemic. But since our last update, there's been 1,201 additional, part of that 39,000. So this is definitely a bit of an increase. We were seeing not so much of an increase countywide, but now we are seeing spikes in certain municipalities. Westchester County has conducted 41,000 since the last COVID test, and that's just within the last, last update was probably last week. So testing of people in Westchester County continues at a very, very high rate. And what happens when you test? You find positive cases, because what they're saying is about 40% of people with COVID-19 virus do not present any symptoms. So they're asymptomatic. They don't know they have it. That is why it's so important for everyone to protect themselves. Okay. All right. Westchester has experienced 1,471 fatalities since the beginning of the pandemic, and just 2 within the last week. Now, we talk about our little hamlet here. We are moving into double digits in early September. We had been down over the summer, every day, maybe 2 or 3, 1. We had some zeros there. But as of early September, we've been getting an increase in positive cases. It's moved into double digits. Currently, Somers has 24 active COVID-19 cases in our community. Of note, there are multiple households with multiple cases. So we're seeing households where there are 4 people in the household with COVID. There are half a dozen households with 2 people with COVID. So, there's good news and bad news there. It's not widespread throughout the community, but because people are cohabitating together and it's almost impossible not to get infected if you're living with someone who's infected, unless you're following the strict protocols. If you have COVID, you're isolated, which means you don't have contact with anybody in your family for 14 days. That's a tough thing to do. So that is where we are. We are kind of in the same boat in northern Westchester. We're seeing a spike in cases. So that's why, we encourage wearing masks, social distancing, hand washing, frequent hand washing. The townhouse, once again, we are fogging once a week. We are letting the public into the townhouse on a limited basis. We like you to make appointments to come in. We have staff that are screening people as they come in. Everyone would come in the front door. They get their temperature taken, and they're given a little card as to what office they're going to, so we don't let the public roam around the building. So that is my COVID up. Yes,
Rick, can I add just a bit to that?
sure.
We had a meeting today of what I call I guess it's a return to work, but COVID
Reentry.
task force.
Reentry task force.
And just so everybody's aware who's watching this, the governor, well, number one, as we said, I don't know if we said it at the beginning of the meeting or not, he's pushed back the in-person meetings and the open meeting, let's say,
That is my
till December 3rd, I think it is. But he also the travel, travel ban laws or rules, I'll say, has changed a bit. It used to be a list of, it was getting up to 40, 45,
40.
in every state anyway. But now he's changed it. So even our form when you enter the townhouse is going to be a bit different because now the way I understand it is there's not going to be a list of states. It's basically, every state except for the ones that are contiguous to New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, and others, I guess Vermont.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, Massachusetts. So just to give a real quick, I'll just read it very quickly so people can hear it. You're going to, you can look it up on the governor's, on the newyorkgov.com website. But for any traveler to New York State from out of state, exempting the contiguous states, the new guidelines for travelers to test out of the mandatory 14-day quarantine are as follows. Now, up until now, there was a mandatory 14-day quarantine. Here, for travelers who were in another state for more than 24 hours, so if you went, you went down for Thanksgiving to Maryland, both tests come back negative, the traveler may exit quarantine early upon receipt of the second negative diagnostic test. So that's for if you're away for 24 hours. If you're go somewhere for less than 24 hours, the traveler does not need a test prior to the departure from the other state and does not need to quarantine upon arrival in New York State. However, the traveler must fill out our traveler form upon entering to New York State and take a COVID diagnostic test 4 days after their arrival in New York. So that's sort of the new laws. It's good and it's bad. Obviously, there were some states that were not subject to the travel ban. You know, the way I understand it is every state is. So it's a little bit tougher. We're not going by percentages anymore. But we were almost up to every state anyway.
Right, right. So I guess the message town-wide, statewide, countrywide is we're still very much
where
in
you
this
are.
pandemic.
Stay home.
And yeah, that's the safe place to be. But when you're out there, be courteous, wear your mask. You go into an establishment, the employees in that establishment should be wearing a mask. But those three things: mask wearing, hand washing, and keeping social distancing are the things, the practices that are going to keep us safe.
Rick,
So-
on these new figures that you gave tonight, were we able to tell which areas of town they might be concentrated in? For example, the nursing home, or in Heritage Hills, or college kids?
Right. I get that question a lot.
Right.
And it's not, early on, it was the nursing homes. We haven't had a hit in a nursing home in the last 3 months. And as far as any kind of clusters, I do, when I get the shared file from the county every day, that's what I'm looking for.
Right.
But, it's on the west side of Somers. They're on the east side of Somers. So it's a smattering. I don't see that there's any enclave that is having outbreaks of COVID.
Okay.
Certainly, if we did, we would, certainly take some action. And as far as, you said college kids, yes, in September, I did get back to the county when we started getting spikes. We had 17 in one day, and I was able to speak to one of the doctors down there, and they said, basically, it's New York universities. Oneonta was one of them that they sent all the students home, and parents then wound up with kids with COVID coming home, and we got our share of that spike as well. But once again, with these new numbers coming in, where we seem to be getting back up in the numbers, the doctor there told me that's no longer the case. That it's not just college kids; it's older people, it's young people. So that's why you should see masks on everybody.
Well, in the summer, I think we were at a low of like 4 or 5 one week, and
Yeah.
now we're at 24. So certainly there's a trend. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's we're not out of it. Not out of it.
No way.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on to our 2019 audit discussion.
Rick, we got a couple
Yeah.
of questions from public comment.
Okay. Very good.
I'm not sure who they're from, which I'm going to tell people we got to start getting their names and address like we would normally. One is for sewer referendum vote. How and when will the sewer votes be counted? How will you notify residents? The sewer votes, to the best of my knowledge, will be counted by our town clerk. No, Patty?
No, that they will be counted after the close of the polls by the election inspectors
Election
that are
inspector.
hired. There, and there will be able to be poll watchers. But that number has to be limited due to COVID.
Okay.
And does somebody have to apply to be a poll watcher, or how does that happen?
It typically, in a normal election, you do apply to be a poll watcher.
But here there's nobody to apply to.
But the thought is, you don't want 10 people there. Maybe you can have 1 or 2, or
Well, you can't have more than 50 in the room.
And,
during the normal
No,
election.
in that room, you can't have more than 26.
Oh, that's right, because you can't be closer than 6 feet. That's right.
But I wouldn't.
50%.
I don't think we're going to have 26 poll watchers, would we, Patty?
Yeah, yeah.
No. Because we're gonna
Well,
have
that-
pub. Go ahead.
There's gonna be 5, 6, 7 of 8 of us.
Okay.
Um,
All right, so that's gonna limit it right there. Okay.
But I'm
And they're
assuming.
not, we're not, just to clarify, when I say us, I mean the inspectors, the police officer, me and my staff.
Right, exactly. And I would expect that we would put the results on the website as soon as possible and, you know, and I'm sure,
And-
it will go- I'm sure it will go on social media quicker than you could shake a stick at.
And it also
Right.
has to be an agenda item to certify the poll. So I'm sorry, certify the results. Although I cannot tell you that that agenda item is going to be for the 12th. Considering the vote is on the 10th, we have a
10th, right.
holiday on the 11th.
Mhm.
I don't see it hitting that agenda. I'm sure it won't be until the December 3rd agenda.
But
Okay,
see,
well-
we'll be able, but the results will, the result, actually, I guess, when will we count the absentees?
Absentees will
At the
get
same
closed.
time?
Anything that can be verified will be counted at the close of the poll.
Okay,
It's the votes or the affidavit ballots or the absentees that cannot be verified until I have access to the assessor's records.
okay.
Okay.
All right. and
So
then
So
we-
is the,
Go ahead, I was gonna do the next question. Go ahead.
no, is the intent to just, let people know as you are counting, let's say, once you get all the days count, and then you're gonna have the ballots will take, a little bit longer. The mail-in ballots will take you a little bit longer. So you're gonna report that, or you're gonna just wait?
Well, as we all know, election results don't come in all that quickly, obviously. We will have a very good sense by the end of the close of the poll. I mean, have roughly 160, I'm going to use that number, absentee ballots out, and most of that have been returned. I don't know what our affidavit ballots would look like, and the affidavit ballots is if you come, you want to vote, you're not in the roster, you're still allowed to vote. Those will have to be verified on Thursday.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I think at the end of the night, when the polls close at 9 p.m., Patty does her count, counts the absentee ballots. These can be unofficial results, and we'd have that nomenclature along with that announcement. And that's what we,
Yeah, that's
Right.
where I was going to go with this. Unofficial results will be available if you call my office on Thursday.
right. Well, we can put it out on a code red,
Yep.
which goes out to
Yeah.
those same two communities.
And I could
I'm
put it.
sure
out-
the newspapers will be there, or we'll call either Patty or someone that night. It'll be like a school board election. You
That's
can
right, that's what I was
vote by
thinking.
affidavit, you're on a voting list, however you are, and then everything will be verified at some point for an official final tally. But generally speaking, it could be that there's enough margin one way or another that'll be known that night, and yeah, it'll be fine.
Looking
All right.
forward to it.
The second question has been asked and answered numerous times. Why didn't you do the septic maintenance program? We paid for the studies on it. The innovative advanced septic system cleans the waste before it goes into the ground. I think we've discussed this. I'm assuming this is the individual one for each house. I think we've discussed it. Our people, and I think it's just a disagreement. I think our people have said that it's only in very certain cases. It's not.
Right. Well, I think, Tom, I think they're talking about the septic maintenance program. Early on, we had talked about setting up a repair program like Bedford did, but we opted for sewer. That's the permanent solution.
But isn't the innovative advanced septic system the thing other people were talking about, which
Yes.
is
That's the enhanced treatment units. Yep. I mean, yeah, we asked and answered that numerous times, as you said. And
okay?
I encourage,
This might be an older text. I'm looking at it here, so don't worry, we can move on.
well, as long as I started this, I encourage anyone that is still promulgating the myth that you can put ETUs throughout lake communities in Westchester County to call Westchester County Department of Health Bureau of Environmental Quality. And you'll get your answer, which is they are not permitted.
I think we've given that answer about a half dozen times.
Yep. Any others comments?
Okay.
No, that's all I have.
Okay, Paul, anything else? Anybody else in the waiting room?
Yeah, we had somebody join the meeting during the reading of the comments. So if you are going to do public comment, please state your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Stephanie McQuaid Geiger. I am at 11 Iris Road in Lake Lincolndale. So I just wanted to ask about voting. As you may know, I'm a science teacher, and so we've gone back and forth about this, and I will urge all of my fellow Somers, Lake Lincolndale, and Lake Shenorock residents to vote yes. This is a matter of density, and we are polluting our groundwater. And the lake is at a tipping point in Lincolndale. And if we do not act now, we are going to lose the lake to recreation. And so I'm just going to urge everyone to please vote yes. This is a matter of clean water. This is not personal responsibility. It's just the way our neighborhoods are set up, and it's no one's fault, but we have to do something about this. My question is about the voting. My husband and I are both on the deed to our home. So I just wanted to clarify, because I know we've gone back and forth, that we each get a vote and that we get 2 votes for our parcel.
Patty?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought Patty was going to answer that, but yes, that's
I
the
was
case.
trying to unmute.
Oh,
Yeah, me
okay.
too. Yes, that's correct.
Can I ask a follow-up? If there is an LLC, does that one LLC get 1 vote for the whole LLC or 1 per parcel?
The LLC gets 1 vote, the managing member gets to vote for that parcel. And if the same LLC owns other parcels, it's still just 1 vote.
Okay.
So if an
Wonderful.
LLC.
One vote total,
owns
not
5
one vote
parcels,
per parcel. Is that right?
Correct. 1 vote total.
Okay, thank you.
So no one person can have more than 1 vote is the end result of that.
Correct.
All right, Paul, anyone else in the
I
queue?
will also, can I just point out as well,
Sure.
because I've gotten some requests to, if they're able to vote. So if it's a vacant parcel, if there's nothing built on it, they're not in the district, so they don't get to vote either.
Right.
Okay. So if I purchase or I own a lot, it's not automatically into the district. It's a vacant lot, but I want to develop it. I have to petition then to get into the district?
Yes, the vacant parcels, my understanding is the engineers did not include vacant parcels
Right,
in
okay,
the list. Yeah.
That is correct. They're not included.
okay. Okay, if there's no further public comment, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is our 2019 audit discussion. Is Mr. Schaefer with us?
Hello.
Yeah. Paul, do you have Jeff from O'Connor Davies with us?
Yeah, I do. He is not muted, so he should be with us unless he's away from the keyboard here or computer.
I'm here, but I
Okay.
can't seem to start my video.
All right. How about that?
Oh, start my video. There we go.
There you go. There he is.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Morrissey, members of the town board. My name is Jeff Shaver, partner with PKF O'Connor Davies, and I'm here to present the results of the 2019 audit. I'm going to take you through some of the key points in the financial statements. I have it here in front of me. Hopefully everyone on the board does as well. I'm not sure if I can share my screen if somebody does not have it.
Yeah, please go ahead and do that.
Okay, sure. Okay. And you see the general fund, comparative schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance.
Page
Yes.
What page is
59.
that, Jeff?
59.
This is page 59.
Got it.
So so everyone can see that. Before I start in here with the numbers, I'll just mention the auditor's opinion, an unmodified opinion. That's also known as a clean opinion, and that's the most favorable opinion the town can receive. So what that means is the financial statements, as I'm presenting here tonight, are fairly stated in accordance with United States GAAP. With that said, I'm going to start in with the general fund, take you through some of the financial highlights for the year ended December 31st, 2019. You can see on the top of the page, this is the 2019 year. Original budget is the first column. Final budget, encompassing any amendments or revisions, is the second column. The actual results are in the third column. And the variance column, the fourth column, is the difference between the final budget and the actual revenues. So when the budget was adopted, it was anticipated $8,943,000 would be collected in revenues. That number was not revised during the year, but actual revenues were $10,003,000. That's a positive budgetary variance of $1,059,000, which is a very solid surplus for the year. How did you achieve that? The largest single line item is the sales tax. Keep in mind, the county increased its sales tax from 3% to 4%, and that was effective in August of 2019. So when you adopted your 19 budget, you weren't able to account for that. So that extra revenue was shared with the towns. And that's why you were able to get, collect so much more than your anticipated budget on the sales tax. And that was about $600,000 just on sales tax alone. You also have departmental income, which is fees charged by the different departments within the town. Engineering fees had a positive variance, and Parks and Recs had a positive variance. All the departmental income together was about $194,000. So certainly very positive there. The use of money in property, you can see, had a positive variance of $188,000. That's the interest income. In calendar 2019, if you might remember, interest rates were a little bit higher. Since then, they have come down. So I would not expect to see that type of variance in 2020. License and permits had a positive budgetary variance of about $100,000, and that's mostly building permits. The only negatives were in the real property tax line, and that's just based on the cash that's collected by the receiver's office. So if it's going to fluctuate from year to year, and that was a decrease of about $180,000, and that shows as a negative variance on the real property tax line. You can see a negative variance also in the state aid category of just about $80,000. There was the state aid budgeted as an AIM payment or the per capita, which is in the state's budget. That money got moved to miscellaneous income, as it now no longer comes from the state, it comes through the county. And the state has mandated the counties to kind of take that out of their portion of the sales tax. So that's why you see about a $50,000 negative in the state aid, and that became miscellaneous income because it's no longer from the state, and that helps you in the miscellaneous category. So no net effect on the budget, just a presentation change. So like I said before, $1,059,000 was the total variance in the general fund on the revenue side. Moving down to the expenditure side of the budget, you can see that the original budget was $8,970,000. The revised budget, $8,899,000. Actual expenditures for the year were $8,634,000. That's a positive budgetary variance of $265,000. And you got that in various different departments in your general government support, and then small variances in transportation, economic opportunity and development, and small amounts in employee benefits. So what the picture that this paints here is that you're running a tight expenditure budget. So you're budgeting your expenditures quite accurately, and you're spending most of those dollars. And on the revenue side, you're conservative, which is good, and you've been able to collect a lot more than you anticipated, which is all surplus. You can see here towards the bottom of my screen, the transfers outline was initially budgeted at $250,000. It was revised to $1,220,000. That was for a transfer to capital that the board approved during 2019. The town has been doing that over the last several years, using its current year operating surplus to fund capital projects. That's prudent, as it minimizes the amount of debt you have outstanding, and you don't have to incur interest costs on that debt. So that is the change from the $250,000 budgeted to the $1,220,000.
Jeff, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
As you look at that with the funding of capital expenditures through the fund balance and not through necessarily a line to allocate it, is that a problem at all in terms of professional bookkeeping or anything like that? Should it be allocated in a line, or is that perfectly permissible under general guidelines?
It's perfectly permissible. The way that the town does it now, as long as the town board approves it, of course, it allows flexibility in the budget. So, for instance, if you're going into 2021 and things are looking a little, it's an unusual time, as we all know. If you budgeted that million, it may take away budget authorization in other areas where you actually need it. If you do it this way, if the surplus is not there and you can't transfer the extra money like you wanted to, you could always bond the funds. So this allows you additional flexibility.
That's different than an appropriation reserve, Rich. So, we also have capital appropriation reserves.
So this is just taking your current year surplus and kind of feeding into the capital projects fund. Otherwise, had the town not done that, the general fund balance would have increased by an additional $1 million. And you'd have that in fund balance, and that could be used to offset future capital projects or reduce taxes. So after that change, the amount of anticipated use of fund balance went from $277,000 up to $1,176,000, as that use of funds for the capital projects was intended from fund balance. Because you generated the surplus of $1,324,000, the difference between those two is the actual increase in fund balance during the year. So the actual increase was about $148,000. So we started the year at $6,664,000 for the general fund, and the year $6,812,000. So all things considered, very positive results in the general fund for 2019. I'll skip over to the highway fund, if I could. So again, this is the highway fund, same 4-column presentation as we discussed in the general fund. The budget starts at $3,778,000 for revenues. You generally will collect all that revenues. It's mostly the real property tax allocation. That's the $3.5 million. The only other significant item is the $200,000 in state aid. On the expenditure side, it's all in the functional category as transportation. The budget was amended during the year by a little more than $100,000, which was taken from fund balance, and that money was, fully spent in 2019. So because you appropriated that fund balance of about $100,000, And you also had revenue deficiencies of about 50,000. The fund balance comes down by about 146,000 in the highway fund. So we started the year in the highway fund at 1,511,000. We end the year at 1,364,000. I'll just take you to our fund balance summary, which will show you for all funds how what those numbers are made up of. So on this page here, there's a lot on this page. What we're looking at here on the left side of the screen is 2019 fund balance. So you'll see all the funds of the town are scheduled out here. The general fund in the first column, highway fund in the second column, debt service fund, capital projects fund, and non-major governmental funds is essentially the combination of all your other miscellaneous funds, which would be your library and your trust fund. So here in the general fund, as I mentioned before, 6,812,000 is the total fund balance, the bottom number on the left. Of that, 2.3 million is what we refer to as unassigned fund balance. That's not encumbered, that's not appropriated, that's for use at the discretion of the town board. So that's about 25% of your general fund appropriations, which is considered a very healthy fund balance. You also have assigned fund balance totaling $4 million. And you can see that in the line up. And that consists of the amounts the town board used to balance the 2020 budget of $369,000, capital costs of $2,987,000. So that $2,987,000 is an additional earmark of this fund balance on top of the million that I mentioned. Okay, so you have that in your fund balance set aside. That's not a legal restriction. That's a designation, or what we refer to as an assignment. So just as it was assigned by the town board or by management, it could be unassigned. So that number has essentially been set aside, $2,987,000 for additional capital costs, and tax certiorari cost earmarked at $650,000. You do have a property damage reserve of about $197,000, and prepaid expenditures are, expenditures that the town made in 2019, but they relate to 2020 because the cash, you can't spend it twice. We have to set aside that portion of the fund balance of $300,000. So clearly a healthy fund balance with the 2.3 million unassigned and the additional assignments you've made of 3,650,000. In the highway fund, the leftover or undesignated, if you will, in the highway fund is 1,233,000, and that's about 32% of the highway fund's budget. So that's also a healthy fund balance, considering the size of that budget.
So Jeff, these balances have a direct bearing on our AA rating, Moody's AA rating that we have, as well as the New York State stress tests.
It's part of the stress test. Operating income and loss is also part of that. There's a number of other factors. Fund balance is a big one. Cash position is a big one. So this is, I haven't looked at the stress test results, but I would have to imagine you're no designation, which is kind of the best you can get.
We're doing nicely. So
it's not something, I would be concerned about from that point of view. It puts you, these numbers, put you in a very good picture going into this pandemic. When we were doing the audit, several months ago, things were very, very scary. We didn't know how 2020 was going to turn out, and we really still don't. Sales tax numbers in 2020 have obviously been impacted by all this. Yeah. Some certain departmental income has gone away that used to be there. Not sure of the impact on your permit fees. Parks and recreation fees have generally gone down because you weren't able to run those programs in the summer. interest income is going down. So there's lots of things going in the wrong direction in 2020 and 2021. But what your town has done is put yourselves in a position to weather that storm. And you also have to worry about additional pension costs coming down the pike. The state has released some of its pension costs, for a couple of years out, and they're rising. They're not going down. So just one more reason why you need to have some fund balance set aside to absorb those impacts. So I can't really sit here and speak to what's happening in 2020 and 2021 in any great detail, but what I can say is you're in a position going in, which the town board should feel good about that.
Thank you.
And you have a debt service fund with $348,000. Those are either leftover bonded monies that you have to use to pay down the debt, or interest income earned on bonded monies. So that can only be used to pay down the related debt. And you have mostly restricted funds in your non-major governmental funds. Your Parklands Trust is about $3.6 million. And you have some fund balance in the library fund of about $540,000, which, considering the size of the library, is also a healthy fund balance. And in the various special districts, the water districts that you have has a combined fund balance of about $600,000. So certainly, as you look at the fund balance here, all positive numbers. Nothing that would causes me any concern that I need to report to you. I'd like to just highlight a change in these financial statements from the previous year. It doesn't. It did not impact any of the fund balance amounts that I just spoke about, but it did change the balance sheet of the general fund, and there's now a new balance sheet.
What page is that?
This is page 26. I'm sorry, 25 and 26. So you'll see this is a new fund. It's referred to as a custodial fund. This is as a result of GASB statement number 84.
It's not small.
This is new for this year. What this represents in the case of the town of Somers is the property taxes you collect for other municipalities within the town. So the school district and the county. So as of December 31st, 2019, you were holding $8.9 million of cash that you later would remit to the school district. Well, actually, by December 31st, you've already made the county whole. So it's really all money to be remitted to the school district. The $8.9 million, you've already collected it. Now, $25 million is, generally speaking, the January school tax payment that after you collect it, you will remit over to the school district. So this balance sheet just reflects the fact that you're a tax collecting entity for other municipalities. This used to be within the general fund balance sheet, and it just made the general fund balance sheet much bigger than it really needed to be. So this standard took it out of the general fund and put it here by itself. And also on the next page, page 26, this is also a requirement of the new standard. This shows the amount of money or cash you collected for these other entities. So this tells us that you collected $91 million and either remitted it to the county or the school district or the fire district. So, and this was never in the financial statements before. It used to only be shown as a balance sheet item. So you really never got to see the full picture there. But this shows that the town is, in addition to regular town functions, is also a tax collecting entity and collecting a significant amount of taxes and remitting it to other governments.
So this change, Jeff, was made simply to clarify, to make it more apparent what exactly we're doing with money. It doesn't affect any of the bottom lines of anything, but just lets everybody
correct.
understand.
That's correct. It's a transparency. The standards they mean to be transparent and improve the financial statements in some way, or at least that's the intention. While there is some complexity in figuring out how this needed to be applied, our firm, did a lot of due diligence and we're comfortable with the way it's presented and that it's presented properly. But it does reflect that the town is collecting a lot of cash that really wasn't in the financial statements in the past. So to me, it's a more accurate depiction. In this case, I feel it's a more accurate depiction of the financial activity that goes on with the town. And it's in a fiduciary fund, which means it's not your money. So you're collecting it and giving it to somebody else. So that's kind of the idea here. And as you said, it doesn't impact any of your fund balance amounts.
But if I don't collect it, Jeff, I still have the obligation to pay it, right?
Exactly. That's a very good point. So the timing of that affects the way we present this. You don't have to make the school whole until the next April. So as of December 31st, the taxpayers of the school district owe a lot of money in taxes, regardless of whether you collect that $25 million. Let's say you collect 23 of the 25, you still have to pay them the 25. Then the general fund essentially buys that receivable.
Right.
And it does impact your fund balance.
So I get great comfort in having a 25% reserve and a strong fund balance. And although it's unlikely we would find ourselves in a situation where I would have to pay something that I'm not going to collect, at least not in this town.
That may be true, but it could be a cash flow.
Cash flow.
To have the fund balance.
Yes.
Maybe there's a pandemic and people don't have the money and they have, they're paying late. If you don't have the fund balance, you essentially have to use general fund balance to front the school that cash until you collect it from the taxpayers.
Yes.
So Jeff, I think what you're going to find in the 2020 audit is that our mortgage tax payments were exceeded our expectations. For some reason, people were paying their property tax. They were doing it online. You can now pay with credit cards, but that was kind of an anomaly. We thought, like as you just said, people might not be or holding back on their tax payments, but that was not the case.
That's excellent to hear that that people are able to stay current on these bills and not put the town in a bad situation by doing that. So that's excellent news. So any questions on the new? I think that's kind of the gist of what changed here. The only other thing I wanted to mention briefly, I know I'm taking up a lot of your time. On page 42.
Well, Jeff, we don't mind you taking up our time with all the good news. So
I don't have any bad news, honestly.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get this kind of news next year at this time.
Yes, I hope so too. The only other last thing I will highlight is the long-term liabilities. So any debt outstanding is where we'll reflect it on this chart. So 5,376,000 is the bonded debt outstanding at December 31st, 2019. You also have a small balance of earned but unpaid vacation and sick leave, 173,000. You have a net pension liability of 924,000. That's given to us by New York State pension system, and that just means that the pension plan is not 100% funded. So it's somewhere around at this point in time, it was somewhere around 90%. It has since gone down because of market fluctuations, in the state's funds. But that's the balance as of it's actually the balance as of March 31st, 2119, because that's the state's fiscal year end. And the big number on the page is the other post-employment benefit obligations payable, stands at $24 million. And that's the value of health insurance earned by current and future retirees, actuarially determined, of course. And you can't fund that in advance, unfortunately. There's no trust mechanism in New York State to do that. But you are paying the obligation as it becomes due. So in the year ended 2019, the town paid approximately $982,000 for those retiree benefits.
How does that, for a town of our size with the budget that we have? I know we've spoken about this almost every year, but just to hear it again, how does that compare with others, and is that a danger signal? We often talk about what percentage of the budget going forward is taken by these benefits once someone leaves employment. And if it's a growing percentage, then it crowds out other things, just as the national debt crowds out other expenditures by the federal government. So just could you talk about that a little bit? And do you have any way of comparing in the past to see if that's taking up a larger percentage of, and whether it's a danger signal going forward?
The accounting standard that required all this presentation is relatively new, but I do have 2 years in front of me. And it was around $1 million both years, 2019 and 2018. As we go forward, there'll be a schedule on the financial statement that'll kind of show up to 10 years. So in a few years, we'll be able to have that history right there in front of us. I would say your numbers are fairly typical for Westchester County municipalities. Most that we see, we do audit a lot of municipalities in Westchester, and it's fairly right on track. Most of the municipalities are in the same health insurance plans or similar, and they offer similar benefits. But the $1 million is a significant portion of your budget because your general fund budget, it's about 10 million, your highway's about 4 million, and you have some districts thrown in there. So maybe you're at 16, 17 million, or somewhere around there. $1 million is a large portion of that. And you're not getting any services for that. You already received those services in years past. The only way to decrease that is to increase, retiree contributions in the future. Some municipalities in New York State don't offer this to their retirees, and this number shrinks to a very small, manageable number. So these numbers wouldn't be typical in what I've seen in upstate New York, but in Westchester County, it's pretty average, pretty typical.
So if we round that up to $1 million, we say that our budget is 14 million of our operating budget without special, with all the other districts, just to round it up. So that's about 7% of the budget. Is that fairly within norm, or is that on the high end or the low end? Just wondering.
I mean, I've never done an analysis on that, so I don't want to give you a wrong
Okay.
answer. But all the numbers here look standard and similar to other, municipalities.
But if we say, 1/14 or 7%, that's pretty much on. That would be an accurate statement with the numbers.
Oh, that's an accurate statement for sure. Yes.
Whether or not that is high or low end of similar towns, we would have to do more investigation.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of, pick some of the other towns, possibly Northern Westchester, and actually analyze them. But
right.
I can just, from off the top of my head, from, just my memory and recollection of other clients, I think it's about average is what I would say. It doesn't strike me as being unusually high or unusually low.
So Jeff,
Is there any way of getting more of that information? More of an analysis?
I could put something together. I wouldn't be able to show you the names of the municipalities. I'll just call them the A, B, and C or something.
Yeah.
And, I'll just tell you they're kind of in the same geographic region as you are. So I can kind of, I can't give out our other client information, if you understand.
No, but you could give us the size of the budget and the size of the obligation.
I could give you percentages. Yeah, I could.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Together, relatively easy, that shows some of that information if you'd be interested in that.
So Jeff, somewhere in here, I forget the page, there's that shows you the number of employees that are they're collecting healthcare benefits, and then it presents the number of retirees that are getting healthcare benefits. And proportionally, it's significant, maybe.
Yeah, that's correct. On page 48, active employees or current employees, that number was a 77 at the time this valuation was done. It could be different today, but and 68 are retirees and receiving those benefits.
So you have almost a full staff, another staff that, your prior staff that's essentially, collecting benefits. And that's really the basis of those numbers, right? The $1 million.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these census numbers or enrollment numbers is what drives all these numbers.
Does that 68 include spouses and dependents or just workers?
Good question.
I would think it's just the employee.
Yeah, I think we usually exclude the dependents and anyone else with them, spouses and stuff, I believe, but I could, if I'm going to do the analysis for you, I will check that.
It says inactive employees currently receiving benefit payments.
Right.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty, that's an impact statement.
And you
Well,
could
Jeff.
always, some other municipalities invite their actuary and who can obviously speak much more eloquently about these numbers. I try to interpret them and we have to review what the actuary did, but I'm not an actuary. So, I would urge you, if you're interested, to reach out to the actuary who did the valuation. They certainly have a much more in-depth knowledge of these numbers than I do, but I'm happy to, do the analysis that you had mentioned.
Okay.
Okay. Was there anything else, Jeff, you wanted to cover?
No, that's everything. That's everything I wanted to cover. I'd be happy to answer any questions that we didn't already touch upon, or anything else.
All right, well,
that the town board would like.
I would just like to say that I want to commend the current town board and the finance director to be able to give you this type of report and audit. I think we're, as a board and a town, we've got the best interest of the town involved in every decision we make. And I think this audit kind of plays to that, the fund balance, the fact that we're in decent fiscal shape going into 2020. And, let's see how next year looks. But I did want to thank the board and our finance director for getting us here. And Jeff, as always, is a very professional presentation and
Thank you.
very informative. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Great job, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
I guess I should stop sharing.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, so before we move to the next agenda item, I'll check back with Paul and Patty and Tom. Any public comments?
I have nothing at this time.
Nope.
How about you, Paul? Anybody in the queue? Okay,
Paul's not
apparently
even-
not. No, he's not. Okay. So our next agenda item this evening is the town clerk presents the 2021 tentative budget to the town board.
So the budget was received in my office on October 30th. And it's on our town website. So we're all set, meeting our requirements.
Okay, and what's our next trigger date to put together the preliminary? When's that to?
We're gonna schedule the public hearing next week,
Okay, for December,
3rd.
okay. Okay. So that'll be our public hearing on our 2021 budget. Excellent. Okay. Once again, I want to thank our finance department and the town board. You know, we conducted hearings with all the department heads to come up with this budget. And, you know, this is always a trying time for everybody, but I do appreciate all the effort that went into this. So thanks again. Okay, next agenda item is a comprehensive plan update in our business historic preservation district discussion. And, you know, basically this has to do with the fact that we're faced with a current proposal for a 7-Eleven store. And then I think the town board should take a look at the appropriate uses within our business historic district. I've had our planner, Saret Dim, do some research for us, and these materials, her memo of November 4th regarding, excuse me, that's not the right one. No, the November 2nd. Where, you know, she points out different things of our within the historic district. One of the things with regard to the BHP, the comprehensive plan states the Business Historic Preservation District was established to ensure that new development within historic Somers Hamlet area is in keeping with the character and complements the existing historic nature and structures that anchor the district. This stated the purpose is very clear and reiterated again in the BHP district zone, section 170-15.1, that relates to permitted retail uses in the business historic district, which states that the stated uses are permitted provided that the planning board approves the use as being consistent with the nature, character, and purpose of the historic district. So I thought this was worthwhile having a discussion about the uses within our business historic district. You know, we're faced with the prospect of having a 7-Eleven, which, you know, although considered as a convenience store, by practice, it's more like a grab and go or fast food enterprise. And as we all know, fast food restaurants are not, or excuse me, fast food enterprises are not permitted in a lot of our zone, and particularly in our historic district. So I think we need to take a hard look at what uses we really want to see there. Fast food establishment are defined in our zoning as a business primarily engaged in the rapid retail sale of pre-prepared or quick prepared foods and beverages served in disposable containers, where a substantial portion of the sales by customers ordering and picking up food at a counter with limited table service. Fast food establishments do not include bakeries, food markets, delicatessens, or other non-restaurant businesses engaged in the sale of food that have seating capacity defined by the building inspector. So although our building inspector feels that a 7-Eleven should be considered a convenience store, which is permitted, I think the board needs to really look at that and say, is this a 7-Eleven, a 24-hour operation? Is that really a use, a permitted use that we want to have in our historic district? Let's see. Okay, the reasons the 7-Eleven proposed at this site is different than that of other 7-Eleven and other convenience stores, such as Mobile Mart, is that the proposed 7-Eleven within the historic district is adjacent to the Elephant Hotel, a National Historic Landmark, and is merely few feet from the congested Route 202 and 100 intersections. I believe the responses from a lot of our boards in town have all kind of focused in on the traffic and public safety issue that revolve around the proposed 7-Eleven. As a grab-and-go fast food enterprise, the 7-Eleven will generate high volumes of traffic in an already congested intersection. A traffic consultant should be hired to study the impact and include a review of the traffic patterns at the existing 7-Eleven on Route 100. I had suggested to the planning board chair that he should recommend that his board members go down, park across the street from the current 7-Eleven, just to get a handle and an idea of the type of volume and the type of vehicles that park along 100 trying to get their quick meal in that 7-Eleven. I don't see, the difference between a 7-Eleven down there or a 7-Eleven next to the townhouse, which would pull in obviously that same type of traffic. So if that were the only reason that I think we should look at potential changes or amendments to our comprehensive master plan for the business historic district, that in my mind would be a valid reason to pursue those amendments. On-site circulation, adequacy of parking, potential conflicts with the left-hand existing traffic onto Route 100, all areas of potential significant environmental and traffic impact during oral hours and especially during peak traffic hours. These impacts do need review by a traffic consultant as well as by the New York State DOT. Additionally, as proposed, the 7-Eleven would be moving into a space previously occupied by a bank. The change in use should be studied. The building sits in one of our groundwater overlay districts, and presumably there will be an increase in fossil fuel use, and it's unknown what other products will be housed or used in the building, which may impact groundwater. The town board should require an analysis of these uses should this project move forward. Certainly, a 7-Eleven in that location is going to provide much more heavy use of a building than a bank would. The groundwater protection overlay district is of Article 4A, Section 170-32, requires the issuance of a special use permit for a use subject to regulation in the groundwater overlay district, and the preparation of a hydrologist and analyst analyze the property that is to be submitted for review by the planning board. So needless to say, being faced with this proposal brings up a lot of questions, and I thought I'd bring it to the town board for discussion this evening. And then finally, I would recommend that the town board may want to consider forming a historic review board that is called out in our current comprehensive master plan update. One of the recommendations is to do that. I mean, had we taken that recommendation, we would have that board basically do the work we're thinking about doing now, because they would have been a comprehensive board focused on historic review in reference to what uses are appropriate for the district. Or we could consider a moratorium on new uses in the BHD, Business Historic District, in consideration of all the issues that I discussed. So the issue at hand is up for discussion. I don't think that we're going to arrive at a consensus this evening, but I did want to bring this to the table. So are there any concerns, comments?
I think you covered all the points, Rick. Right on, I think there was even a letter to the editor today in the local paper that said, didn't think it was, right there in the center of town, right next to the Elephant Hotel, was necessarily a place for a 7-Eleven type location. As I've said before, I'm concerned with the traffic. We've had these other places, even other places have access to larger roads, have been tough to decide on. Here, you're talking about a road that, we tried to put some sidewalks in, and we couldn't even get that property because the property on each side of the road has already been taken.
Yeah, granted.
And I just don't see a big 18-wheeler tractor trailer coming in and making deliveries in that little area. And again, in past, we've had some instances where we've said something similar, and they say, well, we'll deliver it at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and 2 months later you're there at rush hour and there's a big truck sitting out in the middle of the highway. So there's definitely a lot of things to look into. It is a historic hamlet, and so the points that you brought up are interesting, especially the water overlay, or the groundwater protection overlay. Again, this is, I think right now we're going to use the current building. We're just going to modify it. But even in modifying it, what sort of constructions is going to be done? What sort of things are going to be used when you're sitting there right in the overlay district? So, but you touched on most of the other points.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my 2 cents are those are all good points, which I would agree with. But also even more basic than that, Rick, when you read the charter of the the business historic district, the character of the location. I think that I think that a convenience type of store would disrupt that character, and that character is bucolic and small town, and we love it that way. This would open the door to a lot of things that are contrary to that mission, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And, like I said, part of the recommendations in that comprehensive master plan update for the historic district was the formation of a historic review board. I mean, had we moved forward with that, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But, at this point in time, the decision to either have or not have this project is going to lie with the planning department. That's why I think that's a lot of responsibility for them to have to shoulder. And by either creating this board or enacting a moratorium on new retail uses, while we get professionals to study, what are appropriate uses? What does this town want to see? What type of retail business do we want to attract? If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. My experience in this town and with this board, we've been very, very business friendly. We have a great relationship with our Chamber of Commerce. So this is really not about suppressing any type of commercial venture. It's really getting to the core of what is our historic district all about, and the fact that the town board is one of the protectors of this board, of this district. So
I think what was I'm sorry.
Good. No, go ahead.
Earlier tonight, as it was pointed out, our master plan it talks a lot about things in the district, but not the types of businesses that would be there. And I guess we just never thought of it before. When we redid it, it just didn't come up. It seems appropriate that it be thought about. because it probably should have been thought of earlier to see exactly what is it that is in line with the character of the town. There seems to be an omission in the master plan that can be rectified wisely with some study and recommendations and some input that will be not just for this situation, but going forward.
Oh,
A
great.
wise
Yeah.
plan for the town is always a good thing for any town.
This is more of a question from a product sale point of view. I mean, they would sell alcohol. What about like, do they sell vaping devices and things of that nature?
Yeah. Believe they do.
So we have some governance as it relates to, certain types of, the sale of certain types of, or the presence of certain type of stores, right?
Well, we
We
didn't.
can't.
We didn't
had-
prohibit the sale of vaping products,
We
but
can't.
we did prohibit the establishment of vape shops.
Right.
Specifically, is that correct, Roland? As memory serves me well?
That's correct.
And that was related to, because it was in the vicinity of the school districts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that in there too, right? Which this establishment, yes, I think they do have, those types of things. I don't know if they still sell cigarettes or not, but I did a little bit of research, and in Westchester County, going back a number of years, there are many, many violations of the ATUPA Act, which is the Adolescent Youth Tobacco Program, where underage youth go into a 7-Eleven and they're sold cigarettes, and then they get a violation for that. So they're, like I said, many of the existing 7-Elevens in Westchester County have been violated for doing that.
Hey,
So,
Rick, just so you know, I looked it up while we were sitting here, and it says, although it's best known for selling Slurpee drinks and the Big Gulp, 7-Eleven also is the nation's largest retailer of tobacco products.
right. We're not regulating tobacco sales, but I thought I'd point out the fact that, they have a history of violations selling tobacco products to minors.
Nothing
Okay.
against 7-Eleven. There's many times I've been out of something at home and run down to Route 100 7-Eleven. It's nice to know they're open, and many of the people work there are very nice people. In fact, one time when I was there, when I was a teacher, I noticed there were some people in there who I knew were not 21, and they were they were purchasing something they shouldn't have, and when they saw me, they were hightailing out. But the people who ran it were very concerned when I said, "Wait a minute, I know those kids now. I'm their teacher." And they went out, they took it very seriously. So I'd have to say that. But whether or not, if it's on Route 100 versus in the middle of the town, and that, or anything like that, that's probably the discussion that we should think about going forward.
Well, Rich,
Yeah,
I agree with you. We're not, it's not the store itself. I mean, I don't know how many
No.
times you bailed me out
No.
on Christmas when I needed batteries for one of my
Yeah,
kids.
yeah, they're handy.
Would have been a nasty day without the batteries from 7-Eleven. But again, it's location and
right. And
like that.
right. I will say the violations from 7-Elevens, none of them were from Somer's store. So it's a valued enterprise down there. And
Yeah,
but I
it's
did want
good
to
to have it
clarify.
there.
Yeah, no, it is and it's appropriate location for that. All right, so I don't want to I didn't want to take up too much time, but we'll put it on a future agenda for discussion. But it's worthwhile. I think that the town board does get involved in this at this level. So we'll table the discussion for now and bring it up at a later on a later agenda. Anyone for public comment? Paul? or Tom, Patty?
No. I don't have anything.
I don't either.
Should we close it? Or you want to keep it
Well,
open?
yeah, we'll keep it open.
Alright.
And there may be people, trying to get in. Okay, our next item is the proposed zoning amendment. Approvals for a Highview Court discussion. So, Saret, do you want to just tee this up for the board?
Good evening.
Okay, wait, hang on 1 second. I see a message in the chat room. Paul, can you, someone in the chat room that wants to, it's Mr. Santani.
He'd like to make a comment on 7-Eleven.
All right, how do we do that?
I think he's in here already. He is. There he is.
Unmute him or
Donato, you there? I see his picture.
Yes, he's
Is he
picture too.
unmuted from our end?
Paul, are you there?
Yeah, hey, guys. Sorry,
Are-
connection
we're-
froze over here. Sorry about that.
We're trying to let Donato Tatani in.
Okay, stand by. He's a part of the meeting and there's nobody trying to get in. I see that he's here. Let me see. Mute. Lower hand. Stand by, guys.
Sure.
Oh, the joys of Zoom meetings.
They're good in one respect and terrible in another.
He's actually a part of this meeting, but we just can't hear him. So should I eject him out for a second? Have
Can
him
you
re-
hear me now?
Yes,
Now we
we can
can
hear
hear.
you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my comments again. I just wanted to go through a couple of the points that I heard and just, provide a different point of view at a minimum on the looking at the comprehensive plan. So if the first thing was 7-Eleven was mentioned in the same context as a fast food restaurant. The building department has come back and said that 7-Eleven is a convenience store. By the gross sales, 7-Eleven by any imaginable metric would be considered a convenience store and not a fast food restaurant. And there's also a ton of case law that could be provided to show that 7-Eleven's a convenience store and not a fast food restaurant. So I just wanted to make that clear. The second is in the comprehensive plan, there was a lot of statements made about new development and how it needs to be consistent with the business historic district. This one's a bit frustrating because this is not new development. This is a reuse of an existing building. Some of you may or may not know, I am an engineer by background. I have a LEED certification. I was one of the first couple of LEED certified APs in New York State back when it came out. So the reuse of an existing building is one of the greenest things that you could possibly do. So I just want to make that point as well. As we talk about being green and all these things, this is a reuse of an existing building. It's not new development by any means. We're reusing the existing footprint. The third thing I want to say is talking about the 7-Eleven parking. It's great, great concern. I would say that the 7-Eleven down the way on Route 100 has inadequate parking. The 7-Eleven down the street has inadequate parking and our space has much more parking than that 7-Eleven. Finally, there was a lot of talk about the groundwater overlay district. I'm not sure how many know about this building in particular, but this building is heated by electricity, and specifically that space is heated by electricity. So we don't use fossil fuels to heat the space. So therefore, it's already a green building. It would continue to be a green building by any standard. So I think I just had to refute that. One last thing I'd like to say, not having to do with the 7-Eleven, but just for public comment. As we know, the whole coronavirus cases are going up. It's horrible. It's also affecting building owners and retail and all of that. I made those comments last time. But I did want the town to know that I had been approached by a doctor who would like to set up a COVID testing site. I know that doctor called the town yesterday, and the town said that use would also not be consistent with the BHP district. I'm not sure who said that at the town, but I did want people to know that as cases are going up, doctor has approached my site to use it as a temporary testing site. I think it would be a great temporary use for the site while this whole 7-Eleven application is worked out. And it would be a huge public benefit, especially during a public health crisis such as this. That's all. Thank you.
Don, that's the first time I'm hearing of that. So,
Yeah, me too.
well, I don't necessarily disagree with you on that.
Okay. Okay, so, and Mr.
That's right.
Satani, I did mention when I went through some of those points that, yes, our building inspector determined that it's a permitted use. Now, what the town board is basically saying is, if a 7-Eleven is permitted there, then maybe we should be looking at our business historic district, future uses. And maybe we need some guidance. And that's why, it was on the agenda tonight. We hadn't been faced with this before. So, like I said, we've had the discussion. We're gonna push it forward to a future agenda, and see what the consensus of the board is. Do we want to move forward with historic, forming the historic review board? Do we want to declare a moratorium while we hire a consultant, to go through? And, this is not in relation to 7-Eleven, it's in relation to what uses we really want to see in the historic district. We are the guardians of the historic district. So,
Can I
Okay.
ask Mr. Satani? Oh, I'm sorry. When you're done,
Okay.
I'll ask Mr.
Yeah, I'm done.
Satani a question. Mr. Satani, you were mentioning your building. Just because I don't know your plans or what your proposal is, are you proposing that current building would be torn down and a new one would be built, or that you would simply be keeping the same footprint and reconfiguring the inside of it? And if you did that, what sort of energy, you say you're a LEED certified engineer, if you were going to reuse the building, how would you make it more environmentally sensible, reducing electricity, et cetera? I just was wondering if you could put a little detail to that plan for me so I could understand it better.
Sure. The current proposal that's in front of the town, as I understand it, and I'm not the applicant for that proposal, but the current proposal is to reuse the existing building, which would just reconfigure some of the interior bank spaces and part of the deli space. So that's what I was talking about. Reuse is far more efficient and better for the environment than a total tear down. So in no way are we talking about a total tear down. We're just talking about reusing the existing building.
And then, so it's your desire to sell that building, and then they would do that work. Is that correct?
That is something that I'd not prepared to talk about right now.
Okay.
But to answer your other question, the bank space is currently heated and cooled by a heat pump system, which I know the town is also reviewing green regulations. I actually happen to be the first applicant in the town of Hastings-on-Hudson, which you guys were using as a model. And I was the first developer in that town, Hastings on Hudson, to actually be approved and receive a CO under the new green regulations in Hastings. So this bank space is used heat pumps to heat and cool the space, exactly as my building down there does.
So Don, I think you said if it's going to be the same footprint, that's part of the plan. It may take some of the deli space next door. And I know they're not adjacent, but of course there's the dry cleaners there as well. Do they, are they okay with it? Or does this adversely impact them, or have you had a discussion and it's already a non-event from their perspective, or not?
I wouldn't want to speak for them, but in my private conversations with them, I'm not sure they would want to speak publicly, but they think it would be a help to their business.
Okay.
See, Don, I mean, do you have any thoughts about traffic and some impacts there from your perspective?
There was a preliminary traffic study done that has been provided to the town that shows that basically 7-Eleven, people don't seek 7-Eleven out usually. They're just on the way type of convenience store. So it has a little, if no impact, usually on traffic, especially on an intersection. This is a major intersection of town, so the traffic counts are already very high in that intersection. I believe also, and I could be wrong, but I believe that the state already weighed in on that traffic and thought it was minimal, if any. All included within the original application, I believe.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Satani? Okay, well, thank you for your comment. And, certainly keep an eye on the agenda. We'll be pushing this forward as far as the comprehensive plan for the Business Historic District issue goes. All right. Is there any, Paul, anybody else for public comment?
We have a few people a part of the meeting. Is there anybody here for public comment?
Okay, they're probably here for the next agenda item, so why don't we move to that? Number 5 on the agenda is the proposed zoning amendment and approvals for Highview Court. And I was about to ask Saret to just tee this up for the board, give us an overview.
Okay, again, good evening.
evening.
Basically, the owner of 259 Route 100 had approached the town with an initial proposal of a mixed-use apartments and retail space below with 3 buildings, 3 stories high, etc. It's in an R80 zone. We met with him, looked at the proposal. I think the town board looked at it briefly. And basically there was some concern that it was really way too dense, even if the town wasn't sure about the use or not the use, but it was way too dense. And so the applicant went back, reworked the proposal, had meetings with the surrounding neighborhood, and came back with the current concept, which is for 24 units in 2 buildings. And essentially, it's what they're calling 2.5 stories or 3 stories, but within the overall height limit of the multifamily district. So what we had initially done, and I had taken a look at this for the town board, was what, if anything, if the town were interested in considering a change in zoning that might permit this proposal or some version of it, what might have to happen in terms of zoning amendments. And what I did for the town was to take a look at what the multifamily districts are currently within the town. And the ones that currently exist are the multifamily Baldwin Place. And that one basically was to accommodate the Hidden Meadow development. There's the multifamily Hamlet, and that was done some time ago, and it accommodates the Willows development. And then the more recent one was the MFR downtown Hamlet, which was a change to accommodate the Somers Crossing and the DeChicos development. So this one, if the board were interested in pursuing this type of development, it would require a rezoning and some form of the MFR potentially designated as a multifamily 100, this being on Route 100, would have to be considered. And in all of the categories, how that would line up against what some of the other MFR zones were. One of the biggest changes, of course, would be that it is 3 stories, and the other zones, the MFR, only permit 2.5 stories, even though the developer, as the way they have proposed it, has brought the buildings in terms of their proposed design in at the height limit of the others. The height limit is 30 feet, and the height limit of these particular buildings would be 29 feet. There's a lot of other issues in terms of the footprint of the buildings, the overall yards, etc. These would be much smaller yards related and setbacks. And this proposal would have about 72 parking spaces. So what we told the developer and that he needed to do was, if he was interested in pursuing this, was to provide a petition for a zone change to the town board. And I've been in touch with both the applicant or the potential applicant and the attorney he's selected, Linda Whitehead, who is here tonight. And they have, I think, the makings of a preliminary petition that they want to describe to the board. So
Okay,
that's
well done.
background.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's move on to Linda or Rick. I see you're on as well. You have the floor.
Good evening. Just for the record, Linda Whitehead with the firm of McCulloch, Goldberger and Stout, representing Londonderry Group, Inc., Rick DiNardo, who actually own this parcel. And thank you, Surratt, for that introduction. We have worked off of what Surratt had done to sort of create a proposed zone. It's interesting, this is really on a much smaller scale than your other MFR, your Hamlet, and your downtown Hamlet, and your Baldwin Place. We're really only looking at a 24 unit development here, so it is a smaller scale. This property is sort of interesting that it is zoned R80, but its frontage is on Route 100. It is surrounded, or at least across the street and to the south, by the OLI zone and the OB 100, and including a lot of commercial and industrial uses, particularly across Route 100. You've got, the highway garage, you've got Lawton Adams. To the south, you have the gas station and Froggy's Deli, and then some more similar uses, commercial uses and industrial uses to the south. So the R80 zoning on this site really does not work. It's not an appropriate location for what could be built here, which is one single family home. And that is what was here and what, turned into a dilapidated state that I think everybody would like to see the house that was on this property be gone. So in looking at it, and as Surratt said, there had been an original proposal looking at maybe a little more development with a mixed use. And based on discussions with the town and with the neighbors, Rick has modified this to now be just the proposed multifamily housing, 24 units, 1 and 2 bedrooms, split into 2 buildings with required parking. We are proposing dimensional regulations that we believe work. Providing a large buffer to the single family residences as you go up Highview. The development is focused close to Route 100. So it will provide that buffer. We're looking at, in this proposed zone, a minimum lot size of 2 acres. Building coverage, really small, not to exceed 8%. The building height, again, we've got to look at whether this is really 2.5 or 3 stories. And 30 feet, as with the others, as Surratt said. We're looking at a density of not to exceed 12 density units per acre of net land. A front yard of 15 feet, because we don't see the need for a very large setback from Route 100. Side yards at least 40 feet, and then the rear yard of 100 that really helps protect the residential properties to the rear. So, and I'm not sure if the layout plan got in the submission to you. I think we had a little problem when we were doing it yesterday, but if I could share my screen and show it to you. So you can see how we're looking to lay out the site. But we've put this together as a preliminary petition. The EAF is being worked on, the plan is being finalized, and we would like to get started with the process. I did have a conversation with Surratt about how the process would work, starting with your board, and that you would likely take on being the lead agency under SECRA. Obviously, we have other approvals we'll need. I believe the property is at least partially within the groundwater protection overlay district. Obviously, we'll need site plan approval from the planning board, but your board is the one that has to grant the zoning amendment. So, we're happy to answer any questions, happy to show you the plans if you'd like, but we'd really like to get some feedback so that we can move forward with submitting the actual petition to you and starting the process.
Okay, so Linda, I have just a question on, so there's 24 units and 72 parking spaces. Now, is that that 72 parking spaces, is that required by any kind of our codes?
Excuse me, if I could just
Yeah,
interject.
it's not 72 spaces. Surratt had said that. It's actually 46, Rick?
Yes, 46.
Yeah, it's 46, which
okay.
is a little more than is required, but not a lot. I apologize for that. It's 46 spaces.
Okay, yeah, 72 just seemed tremendously over.
Yeah, no, it's 46
paved.
spaces.
Yeah, that may be a carryover of the 3 building.
Okay, yeah. So,
Okay.
Rick,
Yeah. So the development is greatly reduced with just the 2 building, with just the multifamily. So we are providing a little bit more than just the required spaces. You want to make sure you have parking for visitors. This isn't somewhere where you can overflow park on the adjacent roads. So you want to make sure that there's enough room for the residents and visitors on site.
have the residents in the area seen the revised plan, Rick or Linda?
Yes, they have.
And how they received that?
They were comfortable with the plan. They were happy with, that we took their suggestions, and basically the revised plan was based on their suggestions and recommendations, which which were to reduce the size and mass and to eliminate the non-residential portion.
Right. What about the setback? You mentioned you want to be close to Route 100.
Well, the point is, we felt that it was best to have less setback in the front and more in the rear to create more of a natural buffer to anybody that's behind it. But there's flexibility there. If we need to move it one way or another, there's plenty of room there to move it.
I would
So
say
keep
put
it-
this up on the screen if you could too.
Well, we have the
I
layout.
can.
I'm
Sure.
looking at the layout right now.
Put it
Rick,
up on the screen.
I wanted to say first, Rick, thank you very much. We had a talk a while ago, and you heard us and you made the changes we were looking for. So I appreciate your doing that. I think this is a much better plan from our standpoint, and I'm looking at the layout that you just put up on the screen, and the layout looks fine. I can't read it.
Show the visual as well.
You can only
The
show-
rendition. You have a rendition there.
Linda, how far is that from Route 100? The front building? I guess
15
it's both.
feet.
Hold on, I'm
50
trying
feet?
to, I'm doing too many things at once.
16 feet from the line.
Okay,
There it
thank
is. Okay. You said 16 feet?
Yes.
Rick, who would you see yourself marketing this toward? You mentioned that there would have to be four affordable housing units, I think you said. And who else would you market it to? I mean, we had, when the Boniellos came, they had an idea of who they wanted. I was just wondering what you
We're
think.
looking to market it either towards single young couples, and also people that are selling their homes and they're stepping down to a smaller unit. Again, the thing that we want to really push is the fact that it's going to be a quality product. It's going to be a premium finishes. So we're looking to really offer something that you're not going to find in too many places.
These are all rentals, though.
Everything is rentals.
Last time you said that you thought this would be good for the town because it sort of would be an entrance way to the main part of town to the north. Is there anything in this plan or any thoughts you've had about that would create more of that welcoming image that you implied you thought would benefit the town?
I think that we can generally agree that that area, that intersection needs a little sprucing up. And I think with, the visual impact that this is going to create when you're traveling up Route 100, where you're going from the industrial area and you're coming into downtown Somers, besides the architectural design, but the landscape plan, the stone wall, it's all going to add to that rural character that we like to keep in downtown Somers and around Somers.
So Rick,
And you hope it'll, I'm sorry, Rick, you hope it'll give people something to look at other than the industrial uses around it,
Sure.
something more attractive.
So you mentioned stone wall. I'm looking at the rendition. It looks like some sort of a fencing. Is the idea to have a similar, stone wall setting like we have up at the Boniellos development up at the crossing?
Ideally, if that's what the town and the board feels they want to see, that's what we'd like to do. We think that's really adds to the area, and it's really going to enhance the project and enhance the entry to Somers.
Okay.
Would there be a way of connecting for the people who are there, a bike lane, a sidewalk, a walk, a path, something to literally connect it to your restaurant or to the shopping center?
Being that we're the king of sidewalks in Somers,
Yes, you are.
with sidewalks there, but unfortunately, I think it's too much of a remote location from anywhere else that there's sidewalks.
Yeah, that's pretty far away.
Yeah, you're gonna have a sidewalk to nowhere. It's not gonna connect to anything else.
Is it?
Is there any? I'm just looking for something that when you said last time, to connect it together, to make it more apart. I was just wondering what kind of ideas there might be. You simply mentioned it'll look nice, but I was just wondering if there's anything more specific, a real creative touch that I can't think of, but wondering if you could.
Well, I think we'd gladly begin, to start, put the sidewalks, if there's a greater plan for the area that somehow, they could be incorporated, we'll gladly put the ball rolling. And, we did that in the historic district. We were used to put the
Beautiful.
sidewalks, and now it's all connected. So we're open to that, or any ideas that the board has.
Mm-hmm.
Saret or Linda, why is this being proposed as a floating zone?
Yeah, that's.
And for those on the
It's
town board who
actually
don't,
not, I'm sorry, Roland, that was an error. It's not proposed as a floating zone.
oh, okay, good.
Well,
Because
once again,
that would complicate, I think, for the town, the need to
Yeah.
study all the other properties in the corridor that could qualify for
No.
this.
No, it's not being proposed as a floating zone. It would be a new zone created, and then we are only proposing to rezone this property.
And we would amend the comprehensive plan to accommodate it, correct?
Correct. And we really believe that this is a site that is a transition. And it needs something that isn't R80 single family and isn't commercial industrial to sort of buffer between the two or transition between the two.
How will these be taxed? You have an idea?
It's a rental, so it would be taxed as
Yeah.
rentals or taxed.
Okay.
yeah, it's not
The same as the
not
way
fees-
condos are taxed.
Like the way the
Right.
condos are taxed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's half a fee simple,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay.
I just, can I mention one thing about this nice stone wall? Rick, you certainly know about the problems we had with the stone wall on the Summers Crossing. So I just want to alert, obviously, we don't know where this is going or haven't taken a careful look at any of it. But we would urge you to
Yeah.
find out if you have enough of your own property and you're not in the DOT right of way and have the ability to actually build this stone wall, or there are major complications. Rick, we certainly know about that, don't we?
Yes, having traveled to Poughkeepsie and met with all the engineers up there, yeah, they'll let you build a wall in their right of way, but you're going to have to pay annual fee to do so. So
I
the
think
object
we
is to
can look
stay
at
out of the
trying
right
to,
of way.
yeah, we can try to look at keeping it on our property.
Okay, so what that might mean is that you don't have that 100-foot buffer. It may be 95 feet or whatever, but you do have the room, I think, to do that. But Saret, I think you're right pointing that out. It's we want to make sure you're out of the right of way.
Yeah, my understanding is they said they only have 15 feet to Route
At the
1.
front, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a lot of room there, and I don't know where the DOT right of way begins and their property ends, so better.
So that's what I'm saying. If adjustment has to be made on the
Oh,
site plan,
Pull it
to
back.
pull it back.
Yeah.
If I can clarify, we actually have 185 feet rear yard. So we have, it's required to have 100, but we have 185. So we have plenty of room to pull it farther away from the road, should we need to do that.
Are there plans to put
good to
buffers at the back end of the property? I mean, what's back there? Maybe,
Sorry to put.
Rick, is there plans to put any type of buffering at the back end of the property?
Absolutely. We always go above and beyond what's required for us with regards to landscaping. So, we plan on doing quite a bit of natural landscaping and buffering for everybody's benefit, as well as the neighbors, as well as ours, because we do want to have a certain amount of privacy in the project.
Mm-hmm. No, it sounds good. Any kind of a rock wall fencing on top, kind of mimicking what's down the street. I think, that sets the tone as you start coming up into the hamlet and into the historic district. Because as you come down 100, you get a good shot of the townhouse. And I think the Boniello situation there turned out very nicely.
Yeah, I think consistency would be good along there. It just does create a nicer impression. I was wondering if there's also any plans for consistency in terms of the gentleman who was just speaking about the property on Route 100. We're talking about the historic district, Mr. Satani. He said he's LEED certified, which of course is a very high level of environmental responsibility.
Right.
Do you have any plans for that? You got Boniello with its geothermal heating and cooling and all sorts of environmental protections there, which of course the town has become proud of what it has done to promote that. Do you have any plans for that? Of what you would do and what sort of certification you'd use? For example, if you have a large parking lot in the back, would that be a pervious pavement like we have at the townhouse? Or do you have any thoughts about that?
So, we plan on looking at and considering all those available options. At this point, we were more focused on presenting this project to see if it was a consideration for us to get the zoning change. Once we know, whether we can proceed to seek a zoning change, then we can, discuss all those other options.
I think they would all make it more attractive and would tie it into the town, as you said, in many ways, whether they be observable or not observable, but it does become part of the town, and that would probably be a good thing, I would think.
Well, if part of it's in the groundwater overlay district, there's going to be some restrictions there anyway.
Yeah, sure.
You may be, I don't know how you're planning to heat and cool, whether it's, the aforementioned heat pumps, which give you heat and air conditioning, and they're run by electric, or, the more, I guess, advanced way of, geothermal as is being done, up at Somers Crossing. So you haven't arrived at that decision-making process yet, correct?
We've begun to explore different options. And once we've tightened up our plans, that we know, better idea what we're going to do with regards to the layout, we'll definitely look at all those options. And we're going to ask for recommendations from the board. The board has just recently been through it with Somers Crossings and the other projects, so we're open to any suggestions or recommendations.
Okay.
Certainly, what we're hearing is you want to make sure there's some sustainability practices incorporated into the design.
That's correct.
Any new proposal in town should try to do that, and I think the builders have tried to do that. Do you have any price point on this where you think, Rick, that you've come up to, or a goal, or just way too early for that?
When you say price point, like rental rates?
Yeah.
Right.
We're based on the other units that we do have in town. One bedrooms are probably going to be around 1,700. Two bedrooms, the 2,500 range, which puts them, respectively at about a 20% discounted rate over comparable units in Heritage. When I say units, compared to one bedroom and two bedrooms. So they're quite a bit more affordable than other options in town, in the downtown historic district.
So Rick, it's your intent to operate this facility and run it?
Absolutely.
Maintain ownership?
Absolutely.
And with the affordable housing units, are you going to administrate that? Or
Absolutely. We do that now. We have 4 affordable housing units in the historic district. They've worked out quite well for the tenants that occupy them. And they work, I think it's a good concept.
Yeah.
And this would
Tony,
be about 4 units of that? Would that be at 15%? Would that be 4?
Would round up to about 4 units, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, just that's a good point, Tony, because some affordable units in town are kind of
Managed out of the county.
managed through the Housing Action Council. And these are outside of that program. These are more in line with our local zoning requirement that you have X amount of units, 15% or so have to be affordable. So, and Rick, it's always good to hear that, you know, the builder is going to be the owner and operator. You know, we found that with Ken Carney up in the Baldwin Place area. You know, he built them, he manages them, and it means a lot to this town board to hear that, you know, you're going to be hands-on with this project.
Yeah, always.
I think you all know that Rick is pretty invested in the town.
Yeah, I would say so. No, we appreciate, you know, everything that he's been doing in the town and the historic district. I think, you know, we've seen quite a change over the last 10 years with structures and sidewalks. So we thank you for those. All right, next steps. Where do we go from here?
We will finalize the plan and put together the full petition and get it submitted to you. And like to get on an agenda to get the process started.
Okay, and when you say revise, so you're going to be looking at,
There's not a lot to be changed. We were kind of trying to get you something quickly. The site plan needs a little bit of cleaning up to match up with the zoning that we've proposed, and getting the EAF done. So
Okay.
that's really all, you know, we need to
Right.
do at this point.
and you did get some input regarding, you know, a stone wall and fencing on top and the fact that, you know, Surratt rightfully points out you want to make sure you're out of the DOT right away. So the
Yeah,
first
we
thing
can
you do is
actually show the location of the wall on the site plan.
good. Okay.
Linda, this is going to be on septic and well?
Yes,
Yes.
Yep.
it's nothing else here.
Yeah,
Very true.
Well, you know, I appreciate you, well, we all appreciate you keeping the, you know, keeping the residents in the area apprised.
Oh, yeah.
What you're doing. And I just encourage you to continue doing that.
Right, because these are the same people who will voice their opinions at a public hearing when we have it. And if you hear opposition from, you know, the neighbors, it's, you know, it always gives the town board pause. You know, we take in what we hear and act accordingly. So, yeah, I think that was a very good move on Rick's behalf, you know, being proactive.
Is this
All right.
land as sensitive as where Boniello built? Because, you know, that was very hard to get that in and satisfy all the environmental requirements. Is this as sensitive an area, or
No,
is it going to be as hard to do? Or
initial studies, we're actually only partially in the groundwater protection overlay district. Balanced, the majority of it is not. It is correct. It has excellent perks and it's relatively flat land. So there's a lot of positive aspects to the lot.
That property, you know, had wetlands adjacent to it and some other environmentally sensitive features.
oh yeah, there've been 3 projects that
Yeah.
started and never made it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
You know
yes,
them
she
all.
does.
I
Yes, she
know.
does. We saw a lot of Linda in those days.
Yeah, where you been, Linda? We've been missing you.
Here I am. I've been spending a lot to with Mary Beth, actually.
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Oh, really?
She and I are working together.
Yeah, because you're the
Friends
town
forever.
attorney in Hastings.
Wow.
I'm the village attorney in Hastings.
Really.
Oh,
Oh, awesome.
but you had projects there.
Nope, I am the village attorney there. So
Very good.
Was that before Mary Beth got there, or you came after her?
yes, I predated, but we're working together well. She's doing a great job.
Okay.
Right, good to hear, good to hear. Okay, so we'll wait for your application or your petition. And we'll take it under advisement. Get you on an agenda.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. And Saret will be talking.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Linda, and Rick, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Good
Good
night.
Nice seeing you, Linda.
Okay, which brings us to agenda item number 6, which is a request to purchase some equipment from Nick DeVito, Superintendent of Highways, in the amount of $34,644.86. We'll put that on the consensus agenda for next week.
Sounds good.
Number 7, authorize the supervisor to approve going out to bid to purchase 2 electric vehicle charging stations to be paid by the NYSERDA grant per memo from Saret Dim, Director of Planning, dated October 30th. I would sincerely like to move this item because we've been trying to get these charging stations forever. So I'm going to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to go out to bid to purchase 2 electric charging stations. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you. And then another item to move is authorize the hiring of inspectors from the certified list for the Somers Sewer District number 2 referendum on November 10th. So I'll make a motion to authorize the hiring of up to 5 inspectors.
Second,
All in
Just
favor?
what inspectors are
just
these? These are,
Discussion?
for the sewer vote.
they're gonna help do the sewer vote.
They're the inspectors that I need to do this sewer vote. They had to come off of a list of certified inspectors from Westchester County.
Excellent. So, good.
Right,
Do
so
we know who
we're,
they are yet, Patty, or once you have approval, then you go out and canvass it?
I finalized my list today.
Okay.
okay, we just need authorization. So I have a
Second.
motion, I have a second, we had discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Okay, Paul, Patty, any public comment people out there?
I still have nothing.
I have nothing on my side, guys.
And I have none.
I was actually coming
Okay.
upstairs. Then I came upstairs and you weren't there.
Rick, I can hear you.
I literally got off the meeting and I went upstairs.
Right, Rick, we hear you. Don't yell at your wife.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, Paul, why don't you, Paul, mute him.
Yeah,
Do him a favor, mute him.
It could happen to any of us.
Right,
yeah.
All right, we're good. Sorry, guys.
all right.
Not your fault.
Okay.
Bring
No,
my
not-
slippers up, hon.
That dog
Okay.
town board.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for.
Come on, those
Get the
guys.
list those jokes.
They ain't ever getting a pizza here, I'll tell you that.
Okay, so we have current vacancies. These are all posted on the town website as well. Upcoming vacancies on terms are expiring for library, partisan prevention, planning board, and zoning board. I want to acknowledge the resignation of Laura Parisi as a member of the Somers Library Board of Trustees, effective October 21st. And Laura, we want to thank you for your service to the library. Your input has made it the library it is today, which is a very well-respected one, and it's beloved in the town of Somers.
Yeah, I can tell you, Rick, what we all know, she's a dedicated member, super bright. When you get her whole family. Her husband's been instrumental in raising money for the foundation. I've seen her kids in there, putting away stuff and helping her with various things. So she's certainly been committed, and
And it's a big loss, but I'm sure she's got other things on her mind to do.
Right. Okay. We have a proposed consensus agenda. You can review that, and if there's any questions, I'll entertain those. The item 4 on the proposed consensus is we have an application to reserve temporary use of the townhouse green from Mitch Kaufman for the menorah. We get this every year.
Mhm.
Those dates coincide
Okay.
with the dates that we approved last month for, I guess, across. I mean, it's the same
No,
dates.
the creche, you mean the
Yeah, the
Knights of
creche, yeah.
Columbus?
Yes, thank you. These are the same dates I'm imagining.
No, I think they're,
Oh, no?
you're right.
December 5th to January 9th?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the dedications
Yeah.
are at two different
Yes.
times.
Right.
What
Which
dates?
sort of brings the question of, we're going to have the celebration during COVID is going to be somewhat.
Well, that's part of the approval of this was in this application, they agreed to no more than 50 people at the gathering, social distancing, wearing masks. The police will be there. And, this goes for, both events.
Sure.
We're trying to keep the numbers down. It's no longer, we have to think about, the Christmas tree lighting. Maybe that'll be a virtual experience as well. And Pictures with Santa. We're thinking about putting him out in the gazebo and having, kids sit on the step with Santa in the background. And, people are being very creative as to how to do this safely and, but still keeping the spirit of the season alive. So, so that does it for our proposed consensus. Our next meeting will be November 12th, 7 p.m. Same Zoom channel. And we'll be having a public hearing on the proposed legislation for creating a town tree board, which will put us in good standing for future grants. And I think it's probably a good move to do that. Of note is November 10th is the long-awaited sewer district referendum vote for Somers Sewer District number 2. As we always say, we encourage everyone who's in the proposed district, come out, exercise your vote. We want to hear from everyone. Okay, with that, any
Rick, let me just make a point if I can, which is that I've been reading stuff, and whenever you have something that's contentious, there's going to be things that are said that are not always as accurate as they could be, either intentionally or unintentionally. Just you say things sometimes. So I think if anyone has any particular, they just want to know the facts, they can call the town. We can set up with the engineer. They could call the supervisor's office. They could speak to town board members. Now, some people might say, well, we will give you the honest answer, honest to goodness.
Well, and there's a fact sheet.
Right. And
mailing,
on the town website too.
Right. Town website. Yeah. Because I did the mailing to all the residents of the 2 lake communities with a cover letter stating what the facts are, what the process is, and then attached to that was a fact sheet. So hopefully people will value the information is out there and has been out there.
Yeah, I was reading some things today that were not factually true.
They were
So I
not.
hope people will base their judgment.
Somebody was just, I don't know, writing stream of consciousness or something, whatever they thought, not the facts.
Well, it's freedom of speech, and I, for one, can't wait for November 10th vote.
Makes
Um,
all of us.
So Patty, you have some announcements for us.
I do. It's our favorite time of the evening.
Yes.
She's getting good
Well-
at this, isn't she?
Well, we're gonna have to go back and get some fun facts from Bill, but
On it.
go ahead with the announcements.
Yeah, no fun facts here. So, so let's start with the 2020 census is finally over. It ended on October 27th. I gotta say, we did well in Somers. We beat our 2010 response with 75.9% responding. The county also beat their 2010 response with 69.3% responding. New York State, were slightly down, but 64.2% in 2020 and 64.6% in 2016. 2010, sorry. And then the US total was up overall, and that came in at 67%. As we know, we're in the midst of our Somers bulk refuge drop off. That ends next Saturday. And that's at City Carding. And again, all these details will be available on our website. But you can bring stuff to City Carding at a discounted rate. The Somers Education Foundation is having a virtual Friday night live. It's going to be Friday, November 6th. So that's this Friday from 7 to 8.
Tomorrow night.
It is $25 per Zoom. It includes raffle tickets and amazing prizes. They're suggesting you order food from a list of restaurants that have supported them, and the Somers Education Foundation will benefit from those purchases. And then there's the second annual Somers Track and Field Booster Club virtual turkey trot, Thanksgiving weekend, the 21st to the 29th. And you can register at www.runsignup.com. We are Somers strong. Keep up the good work. Wear your mask and wash your hands and socially distance.
Thank you. Those are words to live by.
But you stole my ad lib about the sewer vote. But 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Tuesday, November 10th. We will be there, ready and willing and able.
Long day.
And
You've
Patty,
been in the townhouse a lot, Patty, lately.
I have to say, our town clerk has represented this town in such good light. I've gotten a lot of comments on her and her staff handling of early voting and regular voting. And, situations come up that needed her intervention, and she handled them in a professional manner, as we would expect from the best town clerk in Westchester County. So thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Any other further concerns, issues, comments?
Two quick things. One is, I'll step out of character, be serious. Veterans Day next Wednesday. I
Knew
know
it.
Kate from the Lions is spearheading that. God bless her. And because of the social distancing, et cetera, what can and can't we do to participate there?
Okay. I believe the plan is like we did for Memorial Day, which would be a virtual celebration or recognition ceremony at Ivandale Cemetery. That would be minimum amount of people, maybe a handful of Boy Scouts, handful of Girl Scouts. Obviously we have to keep the number to 50 or under. And I believe the Lions are talking to TV Paul. Paul, you can confirm that. And, we're going to do a virtual, and it'll be up on YouTube. It'll be on the town channel. And, it's a very important day to recognize and celebrate.
So for those who want to attend in person, how do we find out if we're eligible to without crashing through that quota of 50 people or less?
Right. Well, you won't get through the gate at Ivandale if you're the 51st person. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bill,
then,
I thought you were
last
going to give us a
Yep.
little trivia that
I got to
Veterans Day was Armistice Day, and you know, no, nothing from you on that. Armistice Day, 11/11/11.
on the 11th hour. Yeah. And
Right.
the last was, as promised, a fun fact. I'll let this be in quiz format, so you will be the first person to answer is the winner. There was a very important birthday last week for a lady, that's your first clue, that I believe we all love. She's very tall for her age, so I'll give you that clue as well. And last week she turned a very tender young 144 years old. Any guesses?
Statue of Liberty.
Voila.
Ah,
Thank you, Rich.
you go.
He's a history
Wow.
teacher. He's supposed to know this stuff.
Exactly.
Memorize
If
his
Rich
dates.
didn't know it, I would have been very upset.
What's that?
Yeah, really.
Bill slipped me a piece of paper before the test.
There you go.
Okay.
Wrote it on the back of my hand.
You didn't get that. A lot of John Jay parents are going to be asking for a refund.
Okay, before we close the meeting, Paul, have you had, oh, here you go. You're pulling it up now. Watchtown Cable. Okay, that answers my question. So yeah, Paul will be doing video shoot of the virtual ceremony.
Good. And we know we'll get good video. He does a great job.
Yeah, he
Thank you.
does. That he does. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, gentlemen.
Second.
Well, someone has to make the motion.
Oh,
Motion to
All
adjourn.
right.
motion. I thought you meant, okay. Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All right.
Aye. So moved. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
Well,
thanks.
have a
Have a
good
good
weekend,
evening.
everybody.
Soon.
Thanks,
Have a
Paul.
good night.
Good night,
And
guys.
Patty, thank you.
Thanks, Patty.